Hi, and welcome to this masterclass about your Saturn return, or as I also like to call it, welcome to your cosmic bootcamp. So, together we're going to do a deep dive into this astrological transit, into the Saturn return. But first of all, for you to check whether this is the right masterclass for you, let me quickly give you an overview of the Saturn return, what it is, right? So, the Saturn return happens once, twice, or maybe three times in your lifetime, depending on how long you live, right? So the first Saturn return happens around 28 to 30, and your second Saturn return happens in your late 50s. And this is when your Saturn comes back to the position he had at the time of your birth. And these years, when Saturn comes back to that initial position, right, is always a time of change, of transformation, and essentially of soul growth. So we are going to have a look at this astrological transit from different angles, right? So first of all, I want to give you an introduction to Mr. Saturn, right? So what is the planet Saturn all about? What kind of role does he play in the whole scheme of the zodiacs, right? And the whole bigger cosmic picture. And then we are having a look at what is the Saturn return, right? What are the characteristics of a Saturn return, and how essentially can you figure out when you have your Saturn return? So I'm going to show you how you can draw your personal birth chart and have a look and see where Saturn is in your personal birth chart, and also how you can figure out with the transits when Saturn is coming back to the exact position he had at your time of birth. And well, then eventually, last but not least, we are going to talk about what does this mean? How can a Saturn return in a way unfold in your personal life? What kind of changes can occur? What kind of transformation? And also how you can deal with it, how you can make this time not a time of struggle and sheer challenges and depression, right? But actually a time of growth. So I'm excited, obviously, because I'm in my Saturn return right now as well. And I really see it as this big time of stepping into a new identity of myself, a really, really big new version of myself. And I invite you on this journey with me right now. And I hope you receive whatever your soul needs to hear right now. As always, take what resonates and the rest leave peacefully. Okay? All right. So we are going to step right in into the topic of Saturn return. And before I explain to you what this astrologically means, in detail, I'm going to cover what the planet Saturn is all about. So let's talk Saturn. Saturn in the greatest scheme of astrology is the teacher of the zodiacs. Saturn is the master teacher, and he is that for a reason. And I really want to say that straight from the beginning, um, because I know there are a lot of views on Saturn that are more like shadowy, right? And like Saturn is not a bad planet, but kind of like has a bad reputation. And I want to say, yeah, he is the teacher. He's going to teach us life lessons. He's the planet of restriction sometimes, of setting boundaries and really going into the nitty-gritty of where we haven't done our homework. And he is the one who is going to make sure that you have a look at everything that is not serving you anymore, so that you can step into that higher aligned version of yourself and basically become, especially with your first Saturn return, that mature person who is ready to really follow own path here in this lifetime, in this incarnation on planet Earth. So just so that you know, right, there's a lot of like fear going around, oh, your Saturn return. And yeah, it can be a time of great challenge, of big transitions, etc., but it also a time of awakening and a time of growth and a time of positive change. So that's my intention, and that's what I want you to hold as a picture throughout this masterclass, right? Saturn is not here to hurt us or to yeah, give us a bad time for no reason. There's always a reason why. And I hope that you're going to figure that out throughout the masterclass and also throughout your journey with your Saturn return. So yeah, as I said, Saturn is the teacher. And as I mentioned already a little bit, there are two sides to Saturn. Basically, in astrology, to every planet and to every zodiac, there is a more light side and a more dark side to it, right? When it comes to Saturn in astrology, the more maybe not so beneficial energies, right? Or what we perceive as not so beneficial are Saturn brings restrictions. Saturn rules discipline in astrology. And Saturn really likes to bring things into systems and into structures, right? And everything that is floating around, you have to reassess and have to bring back, essentially. And Saturn, especially also in comparison to Uranus, Saturn represents the past and Uranus represents the future. So somehow Saturn always has to do with the past in a way that we reflect, that we have a look at what has been happening so far, what have I been learning so far, where am I still in denial of things that are not serving me anymore, so that I can move into that future and become that future version of myself that I came here to embody. And Saturn, therefore, also rules time. So, yeah, no coincidence, that we have quite a few Saturn transit throughout our lifetime. So we have the first Saturn return, the second, maybe even a third Saturn return. But then we also have the Saturn squares. I'm not going to dive into that in this masterclass. But so basically, there are quite some pivotal moments in our lifetime that are due to our lovely Saturn. And Saturn is a planet that moves quite slowly, so it changes the zodiac sign every about 2.5 to 3 years. So it takes approximately like 28 to 30 years until Saturn comes back to the exact position he had at the time of your birth, essentially. So Saturn is here to make sure that you are going to do your homework, right? So I always say if you see this playground in a way really that Earth is a school, right? And we are here to kind of learn, or at least to grow and develop and go through this human evolution. Then Saturn is, in a way, also when we're speaking of archetypes, it is the parent that is going to make sure that you learn the lessons to grow up to become the adult. And the interesting thing is, depending where you live, in which country you live, we have different time stamps, so to speak, when we say that someone becomes an adult, right? Like with 18 or with 21, then you have less restrictions. Before that, you have more restrictions. You're not allowed to drive or drink alcohol, etc. These are all Saturn themes in a way. But astrologically speaking, you are becoming an adult after your first Saturn return. So like when you hit 30, right? And I know that hitting 30 is a big thing for many, right? Yeah, there's a reason why, Saturn brings a lot of issues with the Saturn return. So that for, yeah, some of us it might be difficult to turn 30, because there are many things that are coming up, many issues, which I'm going to dive deeper into at a later stage in this masterclass. But just so that, yeah, when we're speaking about Saturn as a planet, right, in astrology, it's also often seen as the father figure, like a parent in general, but more as the father figure, more of like this masculine energy that is maybe a little bit more strict, and says like, no. So often when we think of Saturn, the word that comes is no. No, you can't do this. No, this is not safe enough. No, you need more structure for this. Are you sure what you're doing? No, I don't think that this is possible for you. And, all kind of like the dreams and everything we have, like, are you really sure? Make sure you have learned everything for this kind of a test. So in a way, it is a cosmic test we are going through with our first Saturn return. And Saturn also represents, in a way, the dark night of the soul. It represents times of depression and, yeah, as I said at the beginning, times of restrictions. But if we are able to face these moments, right, these darker moments, so if we allow ourselves to dive into that darkness in a way, and that stillness, and also the solitude, Saturn represents in a way solitude, then we are able to grow through these experiences, right? To find the discipline to continue on a path that really aligns to who we want to become. So, yeah, Saturn also rules authority, government, all of these structures, right? It's a lot about structures. And also, if we see that, like, for example, in nature, like trees, they have a solid structures, they have their roots, they have their crown, etc. And in like our physical body, Saturn is related to the skin, for example, because the skin is kind of like a boundary, keeps everything in place within us. If we wouldn't have the skin, well, everything would just, I don't know, be everywhere, nowhere, right? And at the same time, also, Saturn rules our nervous system, our brain structures, all these things that connect to each other and give us these bigger systems and structures within ourselves. So there is for sure a very beneficial part to it, right? But the thing is, as Saturn rules Capricorn, Capricorn is an earth sign. It's very dedicated. It's very like driven to accomplish, very disciplined, etc. We have to make sure we are taking these energies into the right direction, right? So that we are not in a way thinking because, well, authority tells me, or my parents tell me, or my teacher told me that I have to do X, Y, Z. That's what I essentially have to do, right? So yeah, it's really interesting also if we have a look at how Saturn looks like, right, as a planet. So Saturn has as a planet this outer ring, right? And this ring in a way represents that we are in a way part of a system, right? But the question is, how is this a boundary that's keeping us small or keeping us within a construct or a system that we actually don't want to be a part of, right? And how can we find a way, a balance between systems, structures, and boundaries, and our own growth and development? So, yeah, the function, if you want to say so, of Saturn is the development of self-discipline, of self-respect, and also of the faith in one's own destiny. I mean, the funny thing is, I often like to bring Saturn and Jupiter together, right? Saturn, in a way, is about faith, as well as Jupiter is about faith. But Jupiter is more about faith in a way, like, oh my God, life is so beautiful. And so there's expansion everywhere. I have, money I can spend. I have good food and everything. So yeah, I have faith in life. And Saturn is more like, I have faith in my life, that knowing deep within that going through these challenges and these transitions, it's going to bring me closer to who I am, and I'm going to grow through these experiences, through these kind of like dark nights. And so I really like to like bring this together, what Saturn is about. I believe that like in earlier times, it was maybe more really Saturn about the self-discipline, and generations before us, they also really, really needed this discipline to to build the world we live in right now after the wars and everything. You needed structures and systems, and this Capricorn energy. Capricorn is about building, right? It is about building a foundation, and then the first stage and the second and the third, it's like climbing the mountains. And now I feel like the topic has changed a little bit, or the main intention of Saturn for me is self-development. That needs self-discipline for sure, but overall it is more about the development of one's own soul, one's own blueprint. And essentially this is for me what astrology also represents. And if we have a look at an individual birth chart, when I do my readings, right, and I have a look at someone's birth chart, for me this is their cosmic blueprint in a way, which is all about soul growth, self-development, etc. So yeah, speaking about that, before we dive into, or before I'm going to show you how you can find out where your Saturn is placed in your birth chart, and how you can figure out the transit when you are in your Saturn return, etc. I quickly want to go over like the main characteristics of a Saturn return, so that where we at. So I said at the beginning, and that you will have probably more than one Saturn return in your lifetime. As I said, so there is a second one, late 50s, and then maybe even a third one. So this comes because Saturn takes around 28 to 30 years until it has moved through the zodiacs, right, and comes back to the zodiac, where you have your natal Saturn placement. But yeah, in this masterclass, I particularly want to focus on the first Saturn return. And so why is this such a kind of like big period, like of 2 to 3 years? So for most of us, the first Saturn return happens when you are 28 to 30 years old, but there are some exceptions where your Saturn return can already start when you're 27 and can last up until 31. This depends on how Saturn moves, and if he moves retrograde in this period or not. But so that you get a better understanding, Saturn moves or stays in one zodiac for about 2.5 years. But within this period, he's going to be exact at one point, exact to the degree of your natal Saturn placement. But you are going to feel the effects of Saturn when he enters your zodiac sign, right? So that's why this is kind of like such a long period. And yeah, again, why is this such a special time? So every time a planet returns to his initial position, right? This is like, ending of one cycle and beginning of a new cycle. But because Saturn is a planet that moves so slowly and takes quite a long time, like about 29, 30 years to come back, a lot happened within this span of time. And also because, as I already mentioned, Saturn is here to teach us something. And the question is, what does he want to teach you with your first Saturn return? So, as I said, many do have, for whatever reason, a problem turning 30, or we like to call it in astrology also like the quarter life crisis, not a midlife crisis, but the quarter life crisis that can come with a Saturn return. And so this is a time in your life where many things will change in a way that you would have never anticipated. Why? Because it is a period of awakening. It's like you have been living in a kind of illusion, portrayed, maybe, that depends on your life situation. I'm just generalizing here, but maybe because of the way you have been brought up, maybe because of what your parents have been teaching you, maybe because of what you have been taught in school when you've been studying, etc., and everything that like the society, authorities, the government has taught you about life. And somehow around your Saturn return, you hit like a wall and you're wait, what has been happening up until now? What has been my life about? Do I want my life to be about this? Am I still moving into the right direction? So Saturn return is a huge, huge pivotal moment and a huge, huge invitation in that sense. Coming back to the very beginning of this masterclass, it is a cosmic blessing, but often coming in disguise, or as I like to say, wrapped in strange wrapping paper. Because the thing is, during your Saturn return, and this has to also like to do with like in which sign your Saturn is, in which house your Saturn is, but it can lead to major changes in your life, such as that if you are married already, right, you feel like, okay, maybe we have been rushing into this marriage and you maybe get a divorce. It can be that maybe up until that point, you've already bought a house or decided to build a house or whatever. And then you suddenly realize, well, no, but I want to discover the world. I want to go travel. I haven't seen the world yet. That's not for me. And you stop all your plans. It can be that you realize that actually the job you're in maybe pays well, but is not at all what fulfills your soul. And then maybe actually what you have been studying, is not what you really want to do. And you just yeah, push the brakes in that sense. But this might happen in a very fast, very, very fast, in a way that nothing could have prepared you for that. It's like a wheel is lifting during your Saturn return that you have not expected. Somehow in your subconscious, this has been working for a long time because otherwise it would not come up. But Saturn is like, here's your paper, here are your tasks. Yeah, Saturn is the taskmaster. And it is like, okay, have a look at more or less every area of your life, see where you are at, see if this still fulfills you, and if not, do your homework, change it, say goodbye, let it go, do something else. It's and therefore a kind of discipline is needed, and also a kind of self-responsibility and sovereignty to really figure out for yourself, am I still walking the path I want to walk? And especially for all of you who are in the first Saturn return right now, you also do have, like, I don't want to get you confused or anything, but there are generational cycles in astrology as well. And our generation has a Scorpio, has Pluto in Scorpio. So this is about transformation, right? And also, if you have your Saturn return right now, you have your Saturn in the sign of Aquarius. And to just put this like together quickly, we are here to break the cycles. We are here to build a bridge from the past into the future. That's what you're doing with every Saturn return, right? You say goodbye to your past and you open up a portal to your future. So this is the process of becoming. This is not the process of who you had been or who you will be, but this is the process of becoming. And we as a generation, we have the task, if you want to say so, to break the cycles, to break the chains of, earlier generations who have been very, very dependent on structures and systems. And we are in this age of Aquarius now where we say, sorry, mom, sorry, dad, I do not want to live the life you have lived. I'm thankful, I'm grateful for everything that your generation has built for us as a foundation. For now, to us to seek that freedom of our soul, to really step into that highest alignment and fulfill our soul mission, because there is something like a soul mission. I'm going to dive deeper into that. So we are the generation that actually is here to transform. So therefore, this period of the Saturn return is so important and so crucial, because you have the, I don't want to say chance in a lifetime, but a really good chance to take your life on another path that brings you more fulfillment and eventually more happy moments. And so I don't know, I don't want to spread fear here, right? Because there's like a lot of fear mongering about the Saturn return. It's going to be awful. It's going to be your Saturn dark night of the soul. Everything is going to change and you're not going to be the person you have been before. And well, there's truth to that. But also, I want to say that this really will unravel in a very personal way for you. So I like to say, if you have if you have done your homework before, might turn out that Saturn return is not that bad for you at all. But if you have not been doing your homework before, and that might be for several reasons, right? We all come here into this life with another blueprint, kind of like not a soul contract. I don't know what your life has been like up until now, through what kind of dark moments you've been going already, what your life as a child had been growing up, etc. So there might have been things that allowed you to just shut down, to just build a world that is actually an illusion in order to survive in a way. And also, we like the security, we like the stability, we like our comfort zone, right? So even if there's a nagging, there's something telling us like something's off, we just tend to ignore it, you know? We neglect that there is something within us calling us. We we would have to have a look at, right? And so if you just said, okay, I'm going to ignore all of this and I'm just going to continue life as yeah, as you think it is the right way, then maybe Saturn return might really feel like hitting a wall out of nowhere for you. So in a way, your Saturn return is like becoming sober, leaving that delusional state and becoming very clear about what the reality is that you live in, about the life, about the circumstances, etc. you've created for yourself. Because at the end of the day, it is very, very eye-opening to work with Saturn in a way that Saturn shows us that we have free will. So for me, Saturn is really that planet that essentially says, you know, you are the creator of your own life. Choose how to work with me. I'm teaching you. I'm like here. Maybe you say like the bad guy, right? The bad teacher, but I'm teaching you the lessons that you need to learn, but you can take the self responsibility for that. You have the free will how to work with me and how you want to create your life. So in a way it's becoming sober because yeah, up until that age, depending, like me, I have never been drinking a lot, but I know many, young people drink a lot, party a lot, etc., up until maybe 30. And it's like, why do we do that? Well, just, I don't want to generalize, but well, many of us do drink a lot because we want to escape something, right? Or in a way, we want to make reality different than it actually is. And becoming sober is becoming, yeah, like faced with what reality is really like, and not that stream state of like everything's just fun and we have a good time, and I don't have to face my fears and what's actually bubbling up within me, etc. But yeah, Saturn return is all about that. It's all about growing up. In a way, it's all about becoming mature. And yeah, that sometimes means a time of reflection, a time of darkness, a time of depression, even maybe, right? Um, so I think now it's time to show you a little bit how you can detect your Saturn in your birth chart, right? And then towards the end of the masterclass, I'm going to dive a little bit more into, well, what can you actually, how can you navigate your Saturn return, right? So let's try this here now. Bear with me, right? I hope this is going to be easy going. So I'm going to share with you, I hope you can see this here in a good way, right? I'm going to make it a little bit bigger here. So I'm working mostly when drawing birth charts with astro.com. I'm not going to go too much like now into how you do that, right? I mean, you can set up your profile for free on astro.com. You need all your birth data, right? Your birth date, time, and place to try to pull your own individual birth chart, but this is all for free. And then, well, you see, if you're a little bit into astrology already, I do use the whole sign house system, but there are a couple of things you can like put into when you set up your profile, etc. But yeah, so I hope you can figure that out on your own. There are probably a lot more tutorials out there how to do this on astro.com, and if in any case you have any questions about that or need some help, then just reach out to me personally. You see here, I've just taken like a random chart. I call it Saturn Return because that's what we're dealing with here in this masterclass, right? And well, yeah, I've chosen for sure a date of birth that brings the Saturn return to this exact time right now to show you more specifically how you can detect that in your birth chart. So again, this is about the Saturn return. I'm not going into anything else in this birth chart right now, but what you want to do if you have drawn your personal birth chart is to have a look at Saturn. And this is the symbol of Saturn right over here. And you can see it is in the sign of Aquarius. So if you are going through your Saturn return right now, you will have your Saturn in the sign of Aquarius as well. If you have been through your Saturn return already, or somewhere in between, or second return, and you're watching this masterclass, then your Saturn might be in a different sign, right? So just be aware of that. But I'm speaking to those of you who are in their Saturn return right now as well. So you have your Saturn in Aquarius. And then I want to come back a little bit to like, why do we talk about like a 2.5 to 3 years period when we talk about the Saturn return? It's because you can see here, right? Well, you will have your Saturn most likely at a different degree than it's shown right here, right? Um, you might have it somewhere here, or somewhere here. And as I said, Saturn needs roughly 2.5 to 3 years to move through one sign, right? So this means that you Saturn return in a way starts at the very moment Saturn enters Aquarius, whether it's going to transit your Saturn right away because you have it at the early stage, at the early decrees of Aquarius, or you have it like here in this birth chart at the very kind of like last degree of Aquarius. The moment Saturn comes back into the sign of Aquarius, or the sign of your natal position of Saturn, right? It's going to bring in change. So the energies will be activated the moment Saturn steps back into your sign. And then it probably will, have its peak when it transits your degree of Saturn. But so within this whole time frame of Saturn being in Aquarius, or your sign, right? That's what we call the period of your Saturn return. Because yeah, once these energies are activated, they are going to bring some changes and transformation into your life. And the thing is, you also want to have a look at your house placements. So here right now, in this birth chart, we have Saturn in Aquarius in the sixth house. The sixth house is about health, it's about work, it's about your daily life, your daily habits, etc. But it might be in a completely different house in your individual chart. In my personal birth chart, I have Saturn in my first house. So the houses represent the different areas of life. And this has a lot, or can indicate a lot, what kind of transformation and challenges and transitions the Saturn return might bring for you. So let's say, for example, you have your Saturn in the fourth house, right? The fourth house is about family, it's about home, it's about our roots, etc. So, maybe this is a time, and really what I want to come back to, just know that this is a time of great change, but you decide whether this is negative or positive, or it can have both sides to it. So maybe during your Saturn return, you do actually decide to buy a property, or to yeah, become like a family, etc., right? It can be the opposite as well, that you already have a home and you decide to sell it because you want to travel the world or whatever, right? But in some way, Saturn return brings a sort of completion and a new beginning. And so, yeah, this might be completely different for you, because it depends where you are in your life, right? This is the beautiful thing about that. Astrology never takes away your free will. It never take, and therefore it never takes away your manifestations. Also, astrology is bringing awareness, consciousness to your blueprint, and it shows your potentials. But it's never going to dictate you in a way what's going what yeah it's going to happen. So this is, again, your birth chart, which is fixed, right? Just for astrology beginners, this is your natal birth chart. So the placements of your of the planets and sign and houses at the exact time of your birth, right? And this will never change throughout your life. Now, you know how to figure out, like, Saturn, the symbol of Saturn, to have a look at the sign placement and the house placement. And then there are this big there's this big area of transits, so to speak, in astrology. This means that, yes, this is where the planets have been at the exact time of your birth, but life keeps rolling, right? Earth keeps spinning. So in every moment the planets are moving, and in every moment there are new souls coming here onto planet Earth. So don't forget that right now, like the planets might be at a different angle than at your exact time of birth. So this is when we bring transits into the whole cosmic boot camp. And I want to show you this. In astro.com, there is, yeah, maybe I'm doing a separate tutorial for that, or just going to put it in the show notes or something, how to set up your birth chart with transits. Right now I'm just going to switch over here. So in the world, in the back end of astro.com, so to speak, you can choose it's called the style or type of chart. I think you can choose there. It's a drop down. You can choose birth chart and transits. And when you choose that one, what you get is this, right? So in the inside of all of this, right, nothing has changed, right? It remains the same. It's your birth chart. But here on the outer plane, you have the placements of the planets where they are right now. And that's where you can have a look, like, okay, what's happening? Where's Saturn right now, right? Where's Jupiter or Chiron, and how does this play into, or like is in relationship at the end of the day with my natal birth chart? But we're focusing on the Saturn return, right? So you want to have a look when you draw your birth chart with your transits, you want to have a look like, where is Saturn right now? And you can see Saturn has moved big time already, you know, so we are kind of like approaching the end of the Saturn return in the sign of Aquarius. So maybe if you have your natal Saturn placement somewhere at the beginning, 5, 10, 15 degree or something, Saturn has already passed your initial position of Saturn, right? Still, you will be affected, right? But here for this birth chart, just as an example, right? Saturn is now approaching this exact position. So it's not yet transiting the exact birth, yeah, position, location in that sense of Saturn. So this is when Saturn has reached that exact degree point. This is when this astrological transit, you say, it becomes exact. But the energy in all times, right? When we talk about astrological transits, right? Especially big ones, there's always a time where the energy is building and a time where the energy is fading in a way after that. So the energy is already building, right? And you may see when it becomes exact, it's kind of like the peak. But also that, you know, for everyone is different, right? Maybe at the beginning when Saturn entered Aquarius, you felt the energies already, and there was a lot happening in your life, a lot of changes, and up until the point it becomes exact with your natal Saturn placement, you feel like, okay, I'm kind of like know what this change is about now. I've taken some steps already, and I'm still in the in between, but I can see the new version of myself, or I'm maybe already out of the more dark moments because I know there's a reason why I'm learning my lessons and all of that, you know. Or it can be that you do not feel a lot up until that very point, you know. This also has to do with, do you have any other, you know, squares with your Saturn, any other more challenging or more supporting, yeah, like um transits and placements and all of that, right? So I'm just more or less generalizing here, and this is also, you know, you might be in that energy of like, oh my god, I'm learning about the Saturn return right now, and oh my god, this can bring huge changes, but now I'm in this masterclass, I want to learn everything about it because I want to be in control, and I want to be safe, I want to be prepared for that. And the thing is, the best way, in a way, to be prepared for your Saturn return is to let go of the control that you're seeking. Because Saturn likes control, likes stability, likes safety, all of that, right? But that is also many times what has kept us small, kept us in a cage, right? Because we were trying to control everything. We're trying to just make everything right and perfect, you know, following this path of like going to school, studying, get a job, get a partner, having kids, building a home, etc., you know. Well, because that's the safe way, and you have everything in control in a way. But the Saturn return is about completely letting go of control. And what happens when you do that? You leave your comfort zone. And what happens then? You might feel like, shit, what's happening? Can be. Or you might feel this exhilaration and this like excitement of like, well, now that I'm stepping out of my comfort zone, I'm actually free to step into my growth zone. And well, what might happen there? What might happen over there in my growth zone? What might this future self look like for me, right? Okay, so I think that's it for now. What I wanted to show you within your like birth chart when you draw your birth chart. So I'm going to stop this right now, right here. Coming back to you guys, and yeah, I'm just going to have a quick look. I did make some notes, but I'm more of a like a free flower, right? An intuitive speaker. So I just want to check that I covered more or less everything I wanted to yeah, leave you with, right? Mm, yeah. Maybe one thing before I dive into what you can do with that, right? With your Saturn return or what is going to support you. I just want to say that especially like Saturn return in general is a moment of awakening, to your past, to your true self, what you want, how to govern yourself, how to lead yourself, how to show up, etc. And it's also a spiritual awakening because it's a moment where we maybe realize that we are more, or there's more to life that we have been taught before, right? But in a way, Saturn is going to teach us that essential, like epiphany in a way, right? To realize that. So coming full circle, Saturn is not here to harm you, to give you a bad time. He's essentially here to yeah, to bringing you to that point where you can accumulate wisdom and self a self knowing um through very earthly and existential experiences. Does not have to be a crisis, can be an existential crisis, but essentially, this is like we in a way have chosen to come here, right? To incarnate with our specific blueprint. And so this also comes back to whether you believe in that your soul has a mission, came with a mission here, right? With a path of dharma. So Saturn is also related to karma, right? The lessons, karmic lessons. But I don't see karma in a way that we are um prisoner of our own karma and we can't change it. We can. And Saturn return is one huge portal for that. So Saturn return has to do with spiritual awakening, and especially if you are going through your Saturn return right now, because then you have your Saturn placement in the sign of Aquarius, and Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, not to confuse you, traditionally ruled by Saturn. So there's actually, a lot going on with these two guys. But Uranus and Aquarius are about awakening to a new age we are entering now. So if you are going through your Saturn return right now, and you're like, oh my God, suddenly I'm interested in, like astrology, spirituality, all of these kind of things, like what's happening? Welcome to your Saturn return. So hopefully this masterclass so far has helped you to better understand what the Saturn return is about, and how you can figure out what it might mean for you, right? And so now I want to just, before I leave you, I want to cover a little bit how you can work, because with the Saturn return, I'm a very practical person in that sense, or in the way I work with astrology. Because let's be honest. Also, when I'm doing like astrology readings, right? At the end of the day, receiving a reading with me, will change nothing in your earthly plane, in your earthly reality, 3D reality, if you don't exercise your free will, if you don't exercise your self responsibility, and you take the aligned actions. So, in that sense, astrology just remains potential. But whether you use that potential, it's up to you. So, a few things what might help you to go through the Saturn return. So, if you have not been confronting yourself, I don't want to say confronting yourself, but if you maybe haven't worked with self-care tools up until now, that is your calling, that is your invitation to do so. Because if the Saturn returns turns out to be quite rough for you, what you need is self-care. So double, triple your self-care, whatever this means for you. Like taking care of yourself, also spiritual hygiene, etc. Spending more time with things that bring you to your core essence, whether this is meditating, whether this is doing yoga, whether this is an Epsom salt bath, or I don't know, just being out in nature, hiking, and also choose time on your own. So really choose consciously solitude. And you might be afraid of that, but this is where you can hear the whispers of your soul, right? And put yourself in moments where you don't have control and see what comes up. Create a space for yourself to step into the unknown, to discover what it is that the Saturn return wants to teach you, wants to show you. And take inventory of your life. Start with the things, the areas of your life where you're triggered right now. I don't know what this is. Maybe this is like work. Maybe this is relationship, friendship, your parents, your family of origin, whatever. Start with that area, but make sure you have a look at every area of your life and see what triggers you and see, well, like, is this still true to my path? Is there something I need to let go of? Is there something I need to say goodbye to? And what is the new version of myself look like? And so is this still suitable in a way, congruent in a way? And yeah, in order to do that, it's important to seek these moments of stillness and these moments of solitude. So really take this time for you, and then when you have these moments where you are triggered or it feels like your life is falling apart, make sure you have support that you need. So essentially it's about finding the sweet spot between asking for help also from friends or family, maybe, whoever can help you in this situation, also from like a coach, a therapist, or healer you choose, right? But again, do not become dependent on them again, right? Because the Saturn return is essentially about coming back, finding your inner strength and discipline to be the creator of your own life and to take the responsibility for it. So you can seek help, but at the same time, see it as a help to self-help, because you want to be able to step into that new version and that new beginning, having your own back. because that's what you need when you're mature, when you've grown up, when you become, astrologically speaking, an adult. And yeah, during these times, again, seek help where needed. And then also establish, in a way, routines or systems, or work with systems that work for you. Maybe you want to journal. If you get very, very angry, hit a pillow, go on the top of a mountain and scream for 5 minutes. Whatever it is for you, right? And yeah, I just had a look because I noted one thing, and that comes back to when I mentioned that Saturn rules the past in a way, and also past lives. So maybe this is a time now, if this is something you're interested in, to do a kind of past life regression or something, to figure out what has been happening in past lives before you incarnated in this lifetime right now on planet Earth, to better navigate your future. Yeah. So yeah. Well, I noted down, cry out, let it out. Yes. And yeah, finally, also refining your commitments. So to wrap this up, and what I want you to remember for your Saturn return is that this is about you becoming the new future CEO of your own life, and to live your life authentically. But therefore, you need to be willing to change. So if you're not willing to change, you're probably going to have a hard time. And yeah, have as a vision, as an anchor, your future self. So don't get stuck in the past, but rather focus on the one you are becoming. And yeah, so in a way, that's how I want to end this masterclass. And again, how Saturn return is going to unravel for you is completely unique, right? So I know I have been guiding people through their Saturn return, and they had, for example, a lot going on in their work, right? So maybe they had some major changes in a way that they stepped up. They became a team lead or something like that, they had in a way more responsibility that came along with that. Or people that have been fired maybe during Saturn return because essentially it wasn't what they wanted, you know I have people quit their relationship, but also people like committing to a relationship finally, right? I have people being at the peak of their business, and suddenly it didn't work at all anymore. And I had people finally reaching the peak of their business they've been waiting for a long time. So this is individual, this is unique, and this is when it comes to having a look at your unique birth chart, right? Because we are all unique, and we all come with our own karma and dharma path into this lifetime. And if you seek some guidance, if you seek some support during your Saturn return, I want to put out there that I'm doing one-on-one readings. I have at the moment 2 sort of readings. One is focused on astrogeography. You can have a closer look into that on my website as well, on my Instagram, etc. I'm sharing a lot about that. And the other one is focused on your notes in astrology. And so what I do, and why I really recommend working with your birth chart during your Saturn return, especially with your nodes as well, because the nodes represent your soul mission, what your soul came here to do, and what your soul wants to experience in this lifetime. And when you are in your Saturn return, you're kind of like confused what the shit is going on, right? Everything is falling apart. I'm having a mess. I am a mess. My life is a mess, you know? What am I doing? I don't actually know what I want. And this can happen, you know, when everything is breaking apart. It's like you feel yourself falling apart. You have you don't feel any connection with yourself. You don't hear any inner voice, you know. And this is when astrology and a birth chart reading can be really, really helpful to figure actually out and to see like what is my soul mission. And that's why I love to work with the nodes. Not many astrologers yet work with the nodes, but the nodes give you a bigger framework. It's like the roof of your whole house. It's like, why am I here, right? If you believe in reincarnation and all of that, and you say, well, there are things I've been doing in past lives, there's strength I'm bringing into this life, and there is something my soul wants to grow toward, thrive towards in this lifetime. And that's called your Dharma, right? Your soul mission. And so during your Saturn return, it can be really, really helpful to figure out like, why am I actually here? And sometimes this might be very, very surprising for you. But yeah, especially on your Saturn return, as I said, you know, the wheel is lifting, illusions are falling, you know, and you might realize, well, yeah, actually, there's something else calling me. So I'm offering these one-on-one readings, and if you are in your Saturn return right now, then we will also dive into your Saturn placement, your sign and your house placement in this reading, to help you navigate this time better, right? And figure out why these changes are happening right now, and also how to step into your growth zone, how to step into your future self and make not only most but the best out of it, because you deserve that. We all deserve that. We all deserve to live our soul mission, our Dharma path. And that's eventually, you know, what Saturn wants us. It's like Saturn looks like this bad teacher, you know, but actually it's just, you know, it's a teacher that's caring, and that wants that we learn our lessons so that we can step into the world and live the life we truly, truly love. So yep, to bring this to an end, I'm offering these one-on-one sessions. They're 60 to 90-minute Zoom sessions. I will receive your birth detail and everything before that. So I'm going to prepare with your birth chart beforehand. And then we are going to dive into your Saturn return, into your node placements and everything that's interesting for you to understand from astrologically speaking. And you do get a recording of the session as well. And normally I do offer them right now at the moment for 166 euro. But so if you're part of this masterclass, if you're watching this masterclass right now, and you decide to leap into and yeah, astrological treasure hunting, as I like to say, with me, I'm putting this offer out there now for 122. So if you're interested, just reach out to me, and yeah, say you watched the masterclass, you've been part of the masterclass, and you're ready for this offer and to discover your soul path, your soul journey mission, and you want this support during your Saturn return. But also, if you're not in your Saturn return, obviously, you know, there's like a lot that can help you. And I just want to put it out there. Also, if you're at the beginning, like 30, 31, mid 30s or something, you know, it's also very, very beneficial to have a look back at your Saturn return and what happened, because maybe you still feel the after waves, you know. like the hangover a little bit. So, yeah, essentially, if you want to dive into your birth chart with me, into your soul mission, then reach out to me. And yeah, so that's my offer for now. Prices are gonna rise at one point. Then you can still benefit from the session, but then it will be just a 22 euro difference, right? I'm offering if you're part of that masterclass for now. Yeah, the prices are as they are, but always check on my website as well. It was so good having you, right? Because the thing is also that this the time of your Saturn return is also a wonderful time to connect with like-minded people. So I hope that being part of that masterclass is also an opportunity for you to connect with other ones who are on this journey or maybe have experienced the first Saturn return already and can share their, ups and downs with you, and you can support others in this process, because that's what I'm here for, to build a community for this new Aquarian age. And yeah, Saturn return is a huge leap, can be a huge leap um, if you take the leap, it can be a huge leap. That's how I'm going to end. So it was a pleasure having you. And for all of you going through your Saturn return, have a good one.